Hey, good morning, everyone. So it's another session of our Q&As. These are questions that I'm getting in my inbox throughout the week, and I'm sharing my answers with all of you so that we can all benefit. So this week, what I'm talking about is adrenal fatigue. Somebody reached out to me and they wanted to know about my approach and how they can find out if they have adrenal fatigue. So I just wanted to give kind of a high-level overview, what it is, how do you get it, what to test, and then introduce you a little bit to my approach. So first of all, what it is. So adrenal fatigue is the non-scientific term for HPA axis dysregulation. HPA axis is the term that we use to describe the hormonally interrelated endocrine organs, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. HPA axis dysregulation isn't as easy to say or as sexy as adrenal fatigue, so most people find it easiest to talk about it that way. So even though it might not be correct, just that's what adrenal fatigue is. It's HPA axis dysregulation, but I'm not going to judge you if you refer to it incorrectly. So just for the sake of clarity, we'll just continue to refer to it as adrenal fatigue that way. So if you're curious to know what adrenal fatigue feels like, I actually uploaded a quiz in PDF form yesterday for you to take a look at. But just a high-level overview, what it can feel like to have adrenal fatigue is dizziness or faintness, like when you stand up too quickly and you feel a little bit lightheaded. That can be a potential sign or symptom. Difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, that's actually a really big one. Feeling tired when you wake up, having hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. Feeling hangry or anxious when you miss a meal. It can look like seasonal allergies. It can look like being forgetful, craving salty foods, getting sick a lot, and potentially carrying around excess abdominal fat. So if you have any or a bunch of those things, you might consider yourself to be somewhere in the spectrum of having adrenal fatigue. So how do you get adrenal fatigue? This may be more clear when we go through my approach to adrenal fatigue in a minute, but at a really high level, what I see as causing it is stress, like psychological stress, feeling stressed out, a disruption in your sleep-wake cycle, which is called your circadian rhythm, diet, metabolic health issues, like poor glucose control, eating a diet that's high in refined sugar, and then your body having to play catch up on managing that blood sugar. And then inflammation. Inflammation can be gut issues, food intolerances, chronic infections, viral or bacterial, maybe even parasitic, and even toxins, so like heavy metals. So really quick, the gut and the HPA axis are interrelated. There's a lot of crosstalk between the two. Not only can inflammation and infections in the gut provoke HPA axis dysregulation, but HPA dysregulation can lead to gut inflammation. So it's like kind of a nasty little cycle there. Stress reduces our body's ability to digest foods. Our body's nervous system is either in rest and digest mode, or it's in that fight versus flight mode. And so if you're stressed out, looking at emails, thinking about your mother-in-law stopping by unannounced, maybe worried about your kid getting into good schools, we're in that fight flight mode, that primal fight flight mode, and we're not in that rest and digest mode, and that can send our adrenals into overdrive. So and then it sabotages our digestion. So underdigested food, when we're in that stressed out mode and we're eating, underdigested food leads to gut microbiome imbalances that favor inflammation. And then stress can also alter our gut motility, so the rate that our food travels through our gut, and it can cause leaky gut, which leads to food sensitivities. So it's really, it's kind of a cluster, but just wanted to point out that the gut and the HPA axis, a lot of back and forth talk between the two. So what to test? How do you know if you have adrenal fatigue other than just looking at those signs and symptoms? So my hands down favorite test, adrenal fatigue. It's called the Dutch test, and Dutch is an acronym. It doesn't speak to the origin of this test at all, but Dutch stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. In addition to looking at the free cortisol levels that the typical salivary cortisol test looks at. It actually looks at total metabolized cortisol, which is cortisone. And so it really gives you the most comprehensive picture of how your adrenals are functioning, because it can lead to a little bit of like oversimplification if you do, some of these like less detailed tests, and can maybe even lead to like some bad advice and bad protocols that could make your adrenal fatigue worse. So given how comprehensive the Dutch test is, it's by far my favorite. It's the only one that I use in my practice. And what's really great about it too is that it's actually just an at-home urine test. So it's really non-invasive. You don't have to go to the doctor and get your blood drawn, which if you're like me, I don't love it. So I really like that about it too. So let's talk about my approach a little bit. How do I approach adrenal fatigue? So to know how to fix it, we really need to understand what broke it in the first place. That is really just functional medicine. We don't just throw Band-Aids on things. We want to understand, how did this happen? And then figure out, how can we fix it? The most critical part of any healing process is to do a thorough root cause analysis with someone trained in functional medicine. That is important. Otherwise, it's just throwing that Band-Aid on top, and it really limits what you're able to achieve. So everybody is going to have a different protocol, a different set of recommendations, because they're going to have a different cause, or causes, can be multiple things, that created this cluster in the first place. That being said, I consider these tips that I'm going to share with you to be my adrenal fatigue essentials. And I've never actually seen someone recover from adrenal fatigue without checking all of these boxes. So just in case you were looking for a supplement, a shake, a quick fix, there's nothing that can replace these essentials. And I want you to think about some of these things that I'm going to talk about too. And if you can identify any areas for improvement within yourself in any of these areas, think about making some adjustments now, even if you don't have adrenal fatigue, to prevent it snowballing into that at some point. Adrenal fatigue doesn't really happen overnight. It's something that gradually, kind of chips away, wears us down, until we're just in that complete burnout state. So if you have adrenal fatigue, this is, great things to come back to. Make sure that you're doing these things well, fixing these problems. If you don't have adrenal fatigue, think about if there's any room for improvement here so that you can keep your nervous system and stress glands functioning properly. So number one, this is going to sound like tough love, guys, but that's what I'm here for. Number one, stop saying yes to everything and start asking for help. Everyone in this group is women, so I know that everyone can relate to this. We say yes too much. Yes, I can do it. That's no problem. I got it. I'm superwoman. I can handle everything. I don't need any help. I got it. And that's really toxic. We really need to start enforcing better boundaries and start asking for help, for delegating. Burnout is the result of taking too much on, trying to be a one-woman show, fear of setting boundaries, chronic people pleasing, fear of confrontation, putting other people before yourself, other people's wants and needs. I can recommend coaches that can help you to examine these habits that you may have, that may have been ingrained in you for years, maybe your whole life. If you're saying this is just the way that I am. If you have a dream, your body is telling you that you need to know that you need to learn a new behavior, and that now is the time to change. So be open to change there. And let me know if you'd like to work with a coach on that. I have some great resources for you, ones that I've used myself. It's just good to practice exercising healthy boundaries and saying no once in a while. Number two, address your trauma. Sometimes adrenal fatigue can be the result of unresolved, painful, or stressful situations that you were in. Some of my clients have had a lot of abuse in their background, maybe as children, sometimes as adults. Some people have had terrible jobs that have traumatized them, or if they've or maybe they've witnessed something that's traumatized them, pursue deeper healing on this with a qualified professional. I actually have used hypnotherapy to resolve trauma stuck in my subconscious, but I don't know that there's any one single way that you can accomplish deeper healing. Just do what's right for you. Just start acknowledging any trauma that you may have, stuffed deep down inside that can be provoking adrenal fatigue. Okay, number 3, look at your calorie intake. I just talked about how to calculate your calorie intake in last week's live. So I think that you should really check that out, look at the formula that I posted, and see how many calories you need given your level of activity. And I think that, in general, it would be a good idea to use a meal tracking app, something like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, and kind of get a pulse, check for a pulse on how much you eat over a couple of weeks. So not just like a day or two spot check, but really just try to track it for like maybe a month. And then compare that to the number of calories that you should be eating, and compare the two and make some adjustments to get into a better habit. This matters even and maybe especially if your goal in the past has been weight loss. Also, check your macros. So that's protein, fats, carbs. Make sure that you're getting enough carbohydrates and proteins in your diet. Adrenal fatigue can be your body's way of telling you that whatever diet you're on or you've been on just isn't working for your body. So try not to be too external about which diets you choose and say like, well, these people get all these great results on it. If your body is telling you this is not great for me, I need more of this, I need less of this, try to really honor that and respond. So yeah, definitely go check out that live and figure out those calories, and then, maybe play with your macros a little bit. Number 4, this is going to be tough. Eliminate or drastically reduce. So, nil to maybe a little bit caffeine intake. Drinking caffeine when you have adrenal fatigue is like whipping a dead horse, and it's going to make the situation worse. It's possible that you've been using caffeine to mask symptoms of adrenal fatigue for a long time now. So maybe you have been in burnout and you're just, downing cup after cup of coffee and saying like, nope, I just have so much to do, I can't slow down, and you just keep pushing and pushing. Caffeine can be our way of sidestepping what our body is really asking us for. More rest. Every once in a while, I understand, we don't sleep well, the kids woke you up, you were stressed out about something at work and you just couldn't fall asleep. But it's when it becomes a habit, when more often than not, you're tired because you're not resting enough and you're using caffeine to compensate for that. That can lead to adrenal fatigue for sure. Number 5, stop overtraining. This one is big. If you have adrenal fatigue, I need you to take this serious. It is damaging your health to continue to do CrossFit, HIIT, running, whatever, those high intensity workouts when you have adrenal fatigue. It's pushing them further and further until it's not just a kitchen fire, but your whole house is up in smoke, so to speak. There are some exercises that may be tolerated. It really just depends on where you're at in that adrenal fatigue spectrum. So if you're in the chronically stressed, if you are in the under-rested, undernourished state, those high intensity workouts are going to push you into adrenal fatigue and sabotage your health and your energy. So some people, depending on where they're at in their adrenal fatigue spectrum, so they come in, they have adrenal fatigue, maybe it's not the most severe case. Some of those people can tolerate, more slow, gentle exercises, walks in nature. Nature contact is really important. Pets, plants, woods, walking outside, all those are really great for adrenal fatigue. Gentle flow yoga, maybe some light weight training. It just depends on where you're at in the spectrum. And, certainly if you have a healthy stress response and you can tolerate those exercises, that's great. But if you come in and you have adrenal fatigue, expect to give them up for a period of time until your body can heal and you're in a place that you can engage with those exercises again and actually reap the benefits instead of, really just making the problem worse. If you are feeling a lot of resistance, lot of that internal resistance, like, no, I don't want to taking a break from intense workouts and consuming more calories, like work out less, eat more. A lot of people, a lot of the women that I work with just like lose their shit, okay? So if you're feeling that lose your shit moment, it might actually be a good time for you to reach out to a therapist or a mental health practitioner or coach to work through the source of those feelings. Adrenal fatigue is something that you will grow through. You're going to be challenged through this process. You're going to have to question habits. You're going to have to question old thinking patterns. A lot of them might be toxic, maybe some body image issues, but you are going to emerge on the other side of this stronger than ever and more in tune with your body, and that's going to pay off in the long run. All right, number 6. I'm just going to take a quick sip here. All right. All right. Prioritizing sleep. I wrote a whole blog post about improving the quality of your sleep, which is something that I'll link to in the comments. There's no way out of adrenal fatigue without allowing your body to rest. That is essentially what your body is trying to tell you. I need more nutrients, I need more care, I need more sleep, more time to rest, more rejuvenation. Give yourself 8 to 9 hours of sleep uninterrupted each night. I also recommend that my clients with adrenal fatigue wear blue light blocking glasses as soon as the sun goes down, and I'll link to a product link for that as well. Our body is actually really sensitive to light. It's something that keeps our adrenals and really all of our hormones functioning properly. Getting daytime light exposure from the sunshine and then keeping the light out at night when the sun is down is sort of the secret sauce to adrenal fatigue. And then number 7, so this is the last one, add high quality salt to your diet. So I don't even mean sea salt that's like the refined white crystals. I want to see something that's like an unrefined salt, similar to like Himalayan. I really like Redmond's real salt. And what you do is you add 1/2 to 1 full teaspoon of salt to warm water, maybe add a little lemon juice and drink that first thing in the morning. Our adrenals sit on top of our kidneys, which control blood pressure. And in clients with adrenal fatigue, they're often low in a hormone called aldosterone. It's a salt-retaining hormone, and it's produced by the adrenals, and it influences the fluid levels in the body and plays a significant role in regulating our blood pressure. So sodium and high quality salt helps to increase aldosterone. So if you're experiencing that dizziness and lightheadedness, think about adding some of that high quality salt in your diet, because you could be struggling with low blood pressure because of your adrenal fatigue. So just a little note, if you have high blood pressure, you're going to want to be cautious about adding too much salt to your diet, because obviously you don't need, to raise your blood pressure even higher. So a little bit of a nuance there. Supplements, these should be really tailored to the individual. And I try to be really cautious about making just blanket supplement recommendations, because like I said, what we really want to do is address the root cause. And when we establish what your root cause is, we may see that it matches with, certain supplements that are going to benefit you specifically. So it's hard to speak too generally about what would be good for everyone. But one that I really like for adrenal and thyroid health as well is an adaptogenic herb called Ashwagandha. I wrote a whole blog post about this too, and I will link to that blog post as well in the comments for you to take a look at. In the blog post, I actually have a product link as well, and that is to an ashwagandha supplement that I really like, because it is the appropriate potency and dosing that aligns with the evidence. So all the research says this is the sort of ashwagandha that you should be taking. So just a little nugget for you there. Other supplements at a high level that I generally favor for those with adrenal fatigue are B vitamins, vitamin C, and magnesium. People that have been on birth control for a long time often are low to deficient in B vitamins. Magnesium, almost everyone low to deficient in magnesium, and that can be depleted by birth control too, but a lot of that comes just down to the reduced quality of our food. Even if you're eating organic, just our soil quality is more and more diminish and deplete. The nutrient density of the foods that we eat, is just kind of slowing down. So it can be kind of hard to get a lot of magnesium in your diet. One good source of magnesium is actually cacao, and I wrote another blog post on that too. So lots of plugs for my blog in here. But it's a great resource. I refer back to it a lot of times. So I'll link to the cacao magnesium post as well. So that is what I have for you on adrenal fatigue. So I hope that is helpful. If this inspires more questions for you than it does answers, please feel free to comment on this video or to send me a direct message. If you want your questions answered more privately, I'm happy to help any way that I can. So, okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.